Hey everyone, I hope that wherever you are that you're staying safe because I know it's been a crazy 2020, and as I mentioned in my other video, I'm actually back in the States. Ever since the stay-at-home order was placed in my state, which is Massachusetts, I realized that I have been baking and cooking all the time. So I've been experimenting with different ingredients, trying out different things. And when I mean experimenting, I don't mean just like experimenting in American cuisine. I experiment trying different recipes from whatever I can find on the internet. But I have a little fun fact. My husband is from Azerbaijan, so I look up Azerbaijanish recipes to try out once in a while. One fun activity to do while you're at home is to not only cook, but to cook recipes that are from other countries so that you can try different food from other countries. Obviously, the food is not going to be 100% authentic, but it gives you like the chance to try something different, and you never know if you'll end up loving it. So today's video is actually a recipe, and I'm going to be showing you how to make halva. And just to keep in mind that every country makes their halva differently, and I've only tried two different types, which one is Turkish halva and the second one being Azerbaijanish halva. And the two are completely different but similar ingredients, I would say. The reason why I'm showing you halva of all the recipes I could show you is because there are not many ingredients in it, so it's pretty relatively easy to make, and you probably have all of the ingredients easily accessible no matter where you are in the world. And eating Azerbaijanish halva is super addicting. It kind of reminds me of slightly cooked cookie dough and without the eggs. It's very different in terms of taste and texture as compared to Turkish halva. I feel like the texture of Turkish halva reminded me of like eating chalk. So I have never really been a fan of the Turkish halva, but the Azerbaijanish halva, I can eat a whole plate by myself. And I know probably in Azerbaijan people have a couple of tablespoons with some tea, but I'll just eat the whole plate for dessert. One last reason why I chose to show you guys on how to make halva is because when I was looking for a recipe on how to make it, I could not find a tutorial in English. There are many tutorials in Azerbaijanish or maybe even Turkish, but in English, I could not find a tutorial on how to make Azerbaijanish halva. Before I get into the recipe, I just want to put like a little disclaimer and say that I probably don't know how to make this authentically, and I don't want to offend anyone. This is just my attempt at making halva. To me, it tastes pretty good, so I just thought I'd share it with you guys. I'm sure there are millions of people who could probably make it better than me. And please excuse my eyelashes. I know they're ridiculously long. I'm gonna cut them because I know it's just too much for me. So let's just jump right in and start making some halva. It's super easy to make. It only takes like 20 minutes of your time, and as long as you have the four main ingredients, you're good to go. So you're gonna need water, sugar, butter, and flour. I'm gonna add extra ingredients. It makes it extra better, but if you have those four main ingredients, don't worry, your halva is gonna turn out great. It's super easy, and I hope you like it as much as I do. The first step to making Azerbaijanish halva is to get some saffron and to crush it up. If you don't have it, it's not so important in this recipe. Once it's all crushed up, you're just gonna take it and put it into a bowl. Again, if you don't have saffron, don't worry about it. Next, we're just gonna get a half a cup of regular granulated white sugar and add it to the same bowl with the saffron. We are also going to add a tablespoon of honey, or even just a teaspoon is fine. If you don't have it, that's also perfectly fine. This part is really important. You want to make sure that you have extremely hot boiling water. You want it to be like bubbling. And as soon as it starts boiling like this, we're going to measure out 1/2 a cup of boiling water. Right when you have your measured out water, you want to pour it immediately into the bowl that has the sugar, the saffron, and the honey. And as soon as you pour it, you just want to start mixing it right away because you want the sugar to dissolve. And obviously, the hotter the water is, the more quickly the sugar is going to dissolve. Now I'm just mixing it, and as you can see, the water is becoming a yellowish color because of the saffron. This next part is really important. We're using 2/3 of a cup of all-purpose flour. When you measure it, don't shake the cup because then the flour will shrink and you don't want to be putting too much flour. This next part is also optional. So what I'm doing here is I'm just gonna sift the flour. Now we're gonna get 3/4 of a cup of butter. Usually that's about a stick and a half of butter. Then we're gonna take the butter and melt it in a pan, preferably a pan looking like this one. I'm not sure what they call these types of pans, but we're just gonna melt that butter. Once the butter is completely melted, we're just gonna add the sifted flour to the pan. At first, it's gonna look really liquidy, but that's actually a good thing because if it wasn't so liquidy and it was more stiff, then that would mean you just added too much flour. You also want to make sure that you're constantly mixing because you don't want the flour or the butter to burn. So you're just mixing it constantly and make sure you keep the heat at around medium. You can also add a little bit of salt. If your butter was salted, then I wouldn't add more salt, but if your butter was unsalted, then just add a pinch of salt. This here is an example of the heat being too high, so if you see this happening, just turn down the heat. This is the most important part. What you're doing here is you're cooking the flour. And the way that you can tell whether your flour has been cooked enough is that after a while, it will start to turn a deep golden color. And you want it to get pretty dark, but you don't want to do it too dark. So really, you just have to time it just right. But like right now, it's still pretty white, but as you can tell, it's starting to change color just a little bit. Now this right here is the color that we're going for. Once you reach about this color, I would just keep cooking it for another minute. Now we're gonna add our sugar saffron infused water. And you would think that by adding liquid, this would only make it more liquidy, but as you mix it, it starts to thicken up pretty quickly. So right about here, there's some type of chemical process going on and it's gonna be thickening up to its Halva consistency. This is the part where you think to yourself that you screwed up. But don't worry, this is completely normal. Also, when you add your sugared water, make sure you turn off the stove. So right now I'm mixing it with the stove off, and you just want to keep mixing it until it thickens up. Now, this is the part where everything starts to make sense. It's starting to look thicker and it's starting to look like halva. This recipe is super adjustable. In Azerbaijan, they also add nuts to it and a little bit of cardamom. I can also imagine adding some cinnamon to it. We just prefer it like this, so I'm just showing you how we do it. Then, if you want, you can decorate it and make it look pretty. It's not going to make it taste any better, but it makes it look more appetizing because halva alone isn't that pretty.
Tastes really good.
And there you have it. Now you know how to make Azerbaijanish halva.